Hi guys, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay, let's get you guys up to date with the weekly goings on with XRP and HBAR. So starting off with XRP, we have $1 billion added in backed credit on the XRP ledger. So this is what we're talking about now in regards to like the current state of the market. And I was saying that for me, what this is showing you is that XRP has got long-term viability, because despite the current, market activity where we are in the market right now, people are still developing on XRP. People are still adding utility to XRP. They're still adding tokenization to XRP in different ways. So in regards to this back credit, we're talking about debt that issuers converting to digital tokens, but it's backed with a pool of real financial assets. So we're talking consumer loans, mortgages, anything like that, income generating financial assets basically that can serve as collateral, right? And this to me is what's showing you that despite the current market and whatever, like people are not just looking at the price, people are looking at what the utility is, right? So you've got to understand, right? If you're a company, you're not thinking of doing this stuff to make the price go up. We're retail, so we're holding as investors. That's completely different. These companies want the benefits of using these crypto tokens, right? So they're not thinking about XRP for the price. They're thinking, well, in what way can this benefit my business? What I can now tokenize all these assets that I have and put them on chain, so it's now faster and cheaper to access them, and I'll now have 24/7 access to them as well. Great, sign me up. Let me get onto that right now. See, they're not really thinking about, okay, well, what's this going to do for the price? Like companies and institutions are using this as an asset, like they're using it as an asset for utility. They're using it for ways to better the business. They're not thinking about the price. Now, don't get me wrong. Will some of these companies hold XRP for themselves as a hedge because they think, well, we think that this asset could be valuable in the future because of the things that it can do? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying that they won't hold it at all as an asset, as a an investment, but when it's mainly being said and done, they're going to use it for the the benefits. So tokenization, cross-border payments, the DEX, all these types of things, right? So that's the type of thing that they'll be looking at first and foremost. So for me, I just thought this was showing you the long-term viability, because despite where we are in the market right now, XRP is still having development activity. So that shows you there's still confidence in the network regardless of what's happening. Okay, then moving on, we've got XRP taking 70% of the represented commodity sector of like 3.5 billion in total. So again, just another impressive stat here, XRP taking 70% of the commodity sector. Now, I have just got to add in a little caveat when we talk about the full commodity sector. So then we're talking about represented and actual distributed commodities. Ethereum does lead the charge with that. But as I was saying in the full video, which I recommend you watch, basically, okay, yes, Ethereum is leading the charge. Fair enough, that's fine. But we all know how Ethereum got to its place. Like we saw the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit. We know that Ethereum did not fight fair. They played dirty, and they tried to put Ripple and XRP in the crosshairs of the SEC. And they also paid so that they could have basically a free pass. That's what we all know it as, the Ethereum free pass. So at the end of the day, yes, Ethereum has got to where they have, but they've not got there fair, first and foremost, because there was a point where XRP and Ethereum were battling out for the number 2 spot. Then after the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit, obviously Ethereum managed to really widen that gap during that time. So they didn't really get there by fair means. And also, when it's all said and done, when it comes to like commodities, tokenization, etc., this kind of thing, this is XRP's wheelhouse. This is what XRP was designed for. So when it's all said and done, XRP it's better suited for this type of activity. So when we talk about long term, because you have got to understand we still are in the very early stages right now. When we talk about long term, I think XRP has a chance of surpassing Ethereum in the long term, because we are still in the early stages right now. So it might seem like, oh yeah, like Ethereum have got the number 2 spot right now. Cool. But this is far from over, right? Like we haven't even got regulations right now. So the institutions haven't really come in properly yet to say, okay, well, let's test out these networks and see which ones are the best fit for what we want to do. I think when that day comes, and these companies are not just using these networks based on whether they're the top 2 cryptocurrency or which network has the most liquidity, I think when they're actually basing it on utility and like how the networks work in terms of performance, etc., I think that's when you'll see Ethereum start to slip a bit, because people will realize like, well, we can't really do that much with this crypto. Same as Bitcoin, right? Like Bitcoin's number 1 right now, but when you realize like there's not really a lot you can do with Bitcoin except for a store of value, like who's going to develop on Bitcoin? What's the point, right? You're just going to go with other networks. So at the end of the day, like I really think a lot of these utility aspects are going to be attributes that really go to like strengthening the XRP ledger over time. Okay, then moving on, we've got just something that I thought I'd point out because it was just kind of interesting here. We've got a bit of a tug of war going on. So in terms of the activity, you've got a lot of whales who are removing XRP off of exchanges. They do say that this is not necessarily bullish or bearish signals, to be honest with you. For me, what I would say is, to me, what it indicates is if they've not got them on the exchanges at this point, they're putting them into custody. So it seems like they're just not expecting anything to be happening right now. So they're just basically putting them into self-custody so they can just keep hold of them until something starts to happen. So it's not a bad thing because they're not selling. But I guess it might maybe make you think that maybe the whales are expecting, we've got a bit more of a way to go before we start getting the exciting price action as well. The other thing is that you've got spot traders, which are just your general retail buyers who are basically buying a lot more XRP right now. So that's a positive indicator because that again would indicate that they're looking at this as like, like let's say a local bottom, because you never know like the very bottom, but like a local bottom. But then you've got the derivatives traders, so those are the ones who are like trading like futures and stuff, who are selling. So it's kind of like that tug of war of like the retail are buying, and then you've got the derivatives and the traders who are selling. So very interesting. I don't really know which way is gonna overpower which, but it seems up and down. So it's kind of mixed signals at the moment. So I'm just showing you that just to give you an explanation of like where we are right now with how the general sentiment is out there with like traders and just general retail buyers. It seems like it's kind of 50-50, right? You've got people on both sides buying and selling. So we'll have to see how that pans out. Okay, so moving on to HBAR then. So we've got Bills on Chain, which has released a product on Hedera. So Bills on Chain is basically doing digital invoices and receipts. I thought this was a great use case for Hedera, to be honest with you, because I was saying this before, like for companies, this is like the next evolution in terms of auditing, right? So one of the worries that a lot of people have is if the taxman was to come and say, hey, we need to do an audit of your finances. A lot of people worry about this because it's like you've got to have everything in order, right? And you might be worrying like, am I missing any kind of, payable invoices or receipts or anything like that kind of thing. Well, if it's all happening on the blockchain or the hash graph, you haven't got to worry about that because it's on an immutable ledger, right? Like that information, that data cannot be tampered with. It's there and it can be seen easily. So this is where life will be a lot easier for these companies when it comes to audits and stuff like that, and even just managing their own, taxes and stuff like that, because all the data will be on chain. So all that information will be readily available. Again, this is just talking about the next evolution. This is the way companies are going to go. Like we're all moving on chain. That's what's happening. So we're kind of seeing that, we're seeing that transition occur right now. And so I think for me personally, I can imagine a lot of companies wanting to use this because it'll be a lot easier. When you think about like paper invoices and paper receipts and stuff like that, like they're so easy to lose, or you could accidentally destroy them by, dropping coffee on them or something like that. Like it's just so much of a hassle. Whereas if you've just got them on chain, they're just there, right? You can just view them online. It's just so much easier. So I think this is something that could be a big thing for Hedera personally. Then we've got Secutix, who's also got a trial with a European music festival to basically do authenticity checks on tickets. So this is, I think, a big deal. They didn't say the European festival in question, but they said it's a very big festival. So already, like they're, throwing them in at the deep end. They're not giving them like some small trial here. They really are testing them out really, on a big scale. But I think this is great. Like I really think this is a good chance for Secutix to really show the power of the technology. Authenticity is a really big problem when it comes to ticketing. The two big issues you have when it comes to ticketing is scalping and fake tickets. Like that's the two big real problems. So obviously at the end of the day, being able to have this technology that will be able to use cryptographic technology that can scan these tickets and in real time tell you whether they're legitimate or fake, that is going to be huge. It's going to be huge for people wanting to buy tickets, and it's going to be huge for also people who are the venue owners, right? Because you don't want people trying to get in with fake tickets. So this is where you can instantly verify whether the tickets are genuine or not. So they're doing a trial as it stands at the moment, but I believe in the technology. I believe that, you know, Hedera will be able to step up to this challenge. And I think if that does go well, which I expect it will, that could bring huge things for them going forward. Because again, you get that word of mouth where they say, yeah, Secutix was really great. Like, we're going to use them going forward to do all of our, you know, ticket verification scans. And then, you know, other companies, venues will follow suit, because they'll say, well, yeah, if that's really that good, if it's the next best thing to start using, then we'll want to use it too. So I think this could really open doors for them, to be honest with you. So I think that's a real big thing. And then we've got finally Hedera, the invisible trust layer. So yeah, this was just a post that I saw by Marco Salzman, so shout out to him. And it was just in regards to talking about Hedera basically being like the invisible trust layer for many different use cases. And the reason why I covered this was because a lot of the times when I do talk about mass adoption in my videos, the one thing that I always say is like, mass adoption is when you're using something but you don't really know the ins and outs of using it. So a quick breakdown I'll give you is like using a car, right? A lot of people know how to drive a car, but they wouldn't know how to take a car apart and fix it, right? So if like there was a certain thing that went wrong with it, they wouldn't know how to do it. Like, there might be like little basic things that you know how to do, right? Like changing a tire or jump starting a car. But if you was to have to like do something really technical, like changing a cam belt, for example, or something like that, they wouldn't know how to do that, right? And so that's an example of mass adoption. Like, many people drive cars, but they don't know how they work. They don't know everything about that car, about how they work or how to fix them. And so this is what we're talking about with Hedera when we talk about mass adoption. It's, you might not know the full things about the technology, like how it all works, but you'll still be using it in your day-to-day life. And when we do talk about mass adoption, there'll be a point where like people are using Hedera and they don't even realize it, right? So it could be one of the most common things I see is like the card terminals that they had a product for, and this is where they could do cheaper payments with card terminals, and they happen, you know, with instant settlement. So you could go to a shop and you might go to buy something cheap and think, there's normally like a minimum spend that I have to pay before I can use the card terminal, but I haven't got no change on me. But then you might look and say, oh, there's no minimum spend here. It says you can just get whatever you want. You're like, oh, great, that's convenient. And then, you know, you pay with your card. And then let's just say you go to the ATM because you want to withdraw some cash, and you notice, the payment's been taken straight away. It's not been earmarked to go out. It's actually already debited my account. That's the convenience of what the crypto technology is. Now, you won't realize that would be because it's happened on Hedera Hashgraph, you know, on the Hedera Hashgraph rails. You just know that, hey, that was really convenient. I don't know what that deal was, but that was great. Like, I really liked that shop because I didn't have to have a minimum spend, and the money's just gone straight out my account. I know it's gone. That's it. So these are the factors where, like, your day-to-day life, you'll be using this technology and you won't realize. And so the post, like, it goes a bit more in depth, so I definitely recommend you check it out. But it just basically reinforced what I was saying to you guys as what's coming. And I really do believe that that's where we'll be when it comes to mass adoption for Hedera. I really think it's going to be that thing of, it will be utilized and people just won't even realize it. It'll be just being used in your day-to-day life and stuff like that. And it'll be on the Hashgraph rails, and you just won't know. You won't know everything, right? There's certain things, and for some of us guys who obviously do our research, we'll probably know. We'll be a bit more informed, but there could be things that we're not even aware of, things that we miss, and we just don't know. You know, it's actually happened on Hedera. So that's what we talk about with mass adoption. It's about like the average Joe still being able to utilize the technology for whatever reason, but not even knowing that it's actually being done on crypto rails or Hedera, right? That kind of thing. And it was a great post, so I definitely recommend you check it out. But yeah, to me, that was just very foretelling of what's coming in the future, and I've, you know, stated this many times, so it just really resonated with me, so I wanted to share it with you guys. But yeah, that's it. You guys are all up to date with the weekly goings on, so I'll leave it there. If you did like this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe so you can be updated for future XRP and HBAR content. And don't forget to hit the notification bell. Thank you very much for watching this, and I'll see you all on the next one.